Well, good Sunday, everybody. Welcome to the Step Up Podcast with Marty Durden and Mike Peacock. If you are paying attention right now, you see that we don't have Marty Durden. He covered for me last Sunday when I was out with an illness, and this Sunday I will be hosting solo. So it's tit for tat with us too, I guess, two old guys doing this. But got a great guest with us this week, Coach Brian Osborne. He is well known in the Columbus, Georgia area, having grown up here and coached here for a lot of years. And now he is the current athletic director at Community Christian. And Community Christian is in Stockbridge. Is that right, Brian?
Yes, sir. That is correct.
In Stockbridge, Georgia. And he's in his first year there at Community. And Brian, welcome. Thank you for joining the Step Up Podcast.
I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Well, I'm sorry Marty wasn't here, but Marty, as us old guys do sometimes, Marty overbooked himself for this time frame, and he called me last night and he said, "Hey, man," he said, "you're gonna have to pull it off solo with Ozzy in the morning. Tell him I'm sorry." He said, "But I scheduled an appointment about 4 or 5 days ago," and he said, "I forgot all about it when I told you I could do it at this time." I said, "Hey, that's no problem. We'll handle it." So,
Absolutely.
But yeah, Brian, this is the fourth episode, I think, of our podcast that we started. And last week, I don't know if you know Coach Ronnie Jones from here in the state of Georgia, but he was the guest with Marty last week, and I was down for the count last Sunday when we normally record, and Marty took care of that one by himself. And you're actually our second guest ever on the Step Up Podcast. So welcome, and thank you for taking the risk to join a couple of old guys doing this for the first time. But our theme is this podcast is based on Marty's A Higher Standard book that he's written, his curriculum that he's written, plus the book More Than Winning, and it's based around and centered around the servant leadership aspect of coaching and what he believes and what he has done research on and all of that. And we are getting guests, that exemplify those standards that he talks about in his work that he's done and that he has exemplified himself for many, many years in the coaching profession. And so we're honored to have you on here and get to talk about coaching and just talk about general life around the capacity of a coach and an athletics administrator as you go forward and as we all have been a part of. So first of all, let's talk a little bit about your background. You grew up here in Columbus. You were a standout athlete coming through school, went to college, decided to get into coaching, and so tell us a little bit about your timeline going through.
Absolutely. Yes, I was fortunate to be able to go to Brookstone in Columbus, Georgia for high school, and I played football, basketball, and baseball when I was there, and actually got to play under Marty Durden. He was my high school basketball coach. So I've known him since 1995, and built a great friendship with him throughout the years. And I had the opportunity to go to Rhodes College in Memphis, Tennessee, and played football and baseball up there. I was a defensive end on the football team, a 3-year starter, and then I was a pitcher on the baseball team, a relief pitcher. So I was a full-time athlete up in college and trying to get my academics done too. But when I graduated, my plan was to go to law school. And I was just praying, like trying to figure out from God, like, where do you want me to go? Where do I need to be at? And I just kept getting the answer of law school is not for you. And I was trying to figure out, like, okay, well, Lord, what do you want me to do? And actually, I graduated on a Saturday, and on Monday, a couple of people from Brookstone contacted me. Marty, Durden, Chico Lynch, Wendell McKenzie contacted me and asked me if I'd be interested in getting into coaching and teaching. And I've done sports my entire life, and I prayed about it, and I actually started working at Brookstone right out of college, and I was coaching football, basketball, and baseball. So I was coaching with Marty, getting to learn how to be a coach and what it takes to be a coach. So that's how I got into coaching, and I've been doing it since 2003. So that's kind of my story.
Absolutely. And, it's amazing how God has those plans. And I went kind of through the same thing. Um, I was going to do about 4 or 5 different things. My wife goes through me all the time. She said, "You graduate with more hours. You probably have another major in there somewhere."
Right.
But I tried 3 or 4 different things, and my plan was not to be a coach. Um, and when I sort of hit the wall, God'll run you into a wall every now and then, or allow you to run yourself into a wall every now and then when what you're doing is not necessarily going according to His plan. When I finally made the decision, okay, God, you want me to be a coach. You want me to go into this. I hear you. Once I did that, everything fell into place, and the dominoes fell just in line. And I ended up spending 7 years in Alabama as a coach, and then got to move to the college ranks at Columbus State. And was there 16 years, and then you know, for whatever reason, God takes you on a path that ended. Not quite the way I wanted it to, of course, and um, went through some other things, and in 2018, I was able to go back into the teaching and coaching profession for 5 years, and that's where I really got to know you.
Right.
The last two of those were came on your staff at Calvary, and we taught together in a little school, and got to be friends, and enjoyed the heck out of that, and working under you and working with the staff that we had a really good group of guys, and and then now have watched you go, and you know, as we say, life takes some crazy turns sometimes,
Absolutely.
and we'll talk about that in a little bit as we go through. But um, what what are your, I guess, what are some benchmarks in your approach to being a coach and an athletic director that uh, maybe you can share with some folks out there who might be, wondering, what do I do in this profession? What are some things I could change? What are some things I could start looking at? What are some benchmarks you try to go by?
Well, when coaching, I try to empower assistant coaches as much as I possibly can. Because you could be a CEO as a coach and just try to tell everybody what to do, and nobody's going to learn and grow from that. So I always want to have coaches that have power, that have the ability to do their job. One person can't lead an entire program. It takes everybody, and it takes trust with your coaches. So it takes time building relationships with your coaches so you can trust them in doing your vision for what you have for the program and ensuring all that is going on. And that just takes some time. But like I said, we're at Calvary. I was there for 13 years. So we were able to build a pretty strong coaching staff that had been there for a while and together. And it was kind of like just a well-oiled machine. All the coaches knew what they were supposed to be doing. And we were able to be successful on the field because we were successful as a staff. I always say, your best programs always have great coaching staffs. That's where it starts with. If your coaches are in line together, all on the same page, your players typically follow suit in that, and you get a lot of good results out on the field. Now, it doesn't always guarantee wins, but you get teams that are going to be very competitive, they're going to play hard, and that's what it's all about and what we're going to do. Because life is not all about, or sports is not all about winning. Winning is great. I love winning. I want to win every single game I can, but that can't be the focus of what we're doing. We're trying to grow young men and young ladies into being who God created them to be. And to do that, we have to pour into them. We have to teach them the fundamentals of the game, of why they're doing this. I always say, start with your why. Why are you wanting to be a player? Why are you wanting to be a coach? You start with that, you can build off of everything else. Why do we have a football program? Why do we have a basketball program? If it's just to win, you're not going to be very successful in what you do, because like I said, I love winning, but winning is not everything. I've won championships, and that didn't fulfill me. Okay, let's win another one. You always want more when it comes to winning. But we've got to be, as coaches, wanting young men, young ladies to grow, to get better. For me, is to draw closer to the Lord and to follow what the Lord has in plan for them, because the Lord has a plan for every person that we have out that He's ever created. And it's our job to partner with parents and to getting young men, young ladies to who God created them to be, for them to figure that out, and for us to be there to help them during that time.
Yes, and I think that's you said some really key things there, especially with your the way you handle assistant coaching. Uh, I have coached on staffs before where the members of the coaching staff were not all on the same page. It seemed almost like the head coach was playing tug of war with a couple of coaches, and that is a tough situation to be in because when you have a guy on your staff that may be either coaching a position or maybe a coordinator who is not pulling in the same direction you are as the head coach, it causes all sorts of little things to happen. You end up with pockets of players who want to support that coach but don't necessarily want to support the head coach.
Correct.
And then you end up with groups of players gnawing at each other, and you end up with dissension on your team because you've got dissension on your staff. And that's kind of tough to handle sometimes. And, I've been on coaching staffs where some of the coordinators thought they knew more than the head coach. And I was even on a staff where one of the coordinators basically got the head coach run off. And that was really tough to watch because both of these men had been coaches in my high school, had been my coaches in my high school. And it was really disappointing to see that rift occur between them who had been friends for so long. And it was really painful to watch. And I think your approach is how it should be. And I really agree with what you said. Once you have a cohesive staff and everybody's pulling in the same direction and everybody is on the same page, and those coaches know that they have the autonomy to do their job as long as it is fitting into the program, I think that's a tremendous way to build a staff, and you are correct. You're going to have success. Now, sometimes that success doesn't translate to a whole bunch of wins, but you are going to build a team that is going to keep stacking on itself and getting better and better as you go through. And I think that's what you did at Calvary. The building job that you did at Calvary over the years finally led to the pinnacle of you winning a state championship. And, you're always competitive. After the early years, you got competitive every year, and it finally built to that point where you reached that pinnacle and you won a state championship with those guys. And that was right before I came there. And, then afterwards, we competed every year. Both years I was there, we competed for a state championship. And but we still had that cohesive staff. And, it was two of the more fun years I've had in athletics, to be honest, to get to work with all those guys and to relearn a lot of things that I thought I'd forgotten over a long period of time. But let's shift gears a little bit and talk about the relationships with athletes and how a coach goes about building a relationship with an athlete. And I was coming up as a young coach. I was always told by some of the older guys that were my mentors, now you can't be their buddy. Mm-hmm. You want to build a relationship, but you can't be their buddy. And there is a line there, right, in that situation. So talk a little bit about building relationships with athletes.
Absolutely. There is a very fine line because you've got to get to know your student athletes on a personal level, but at the same time, they're not your best friend. Also, you can't just sit there and have daily jokes with them like they do with their peers. You are the leader. You are the one in charge, and they have to respect you in your position and what you have. But you do have to build that relationship. And I remember when I was in high school, I only played 3 years of basketball. My freshman year, I only played football and baseball. But Marty was a basketball coach, and he saw a 6'2" freshman, and he really wanted this guy to play basketball, even though that was not one of my main sports at the time. But Marty built into me because he just came up to me, talking to me every single day, not about basketball, just about life. What's going on with your life? How things going? How is school going? This class, what's going on? He just wanted to get to know me as a person, and that got me comfortable around him. And I still respected him as his position. I never thought of him as, like, he's not my best friend, but as my coach. But I got to know him. He got to know me. And when the next basketball season rolled around, like it was absolutely, I'm playing basketball for this guy because we kind of built a little relationship. And that's kind of what taught me as a coach, like, this is what you have to do. You have to get to know your players. You have to let them know that you care, because if they know that you care, when they get out on the field, I mean, they're going to want to play hard for you because they know they don't want to disappoint you. They want to play hard. And so I learned a lot from Marty, actually, in early on as my playing career. And then when I got into coaching with him, seeing the same thing. I mean, Marty, he's just such a great man of God, and pouring into me and other athletes also. So I've used that as an example for my coaching, how I've done. And again, it's getting to like that community. I just started there in January as the athletic director, but I've got to know these kids pretty well, just a few months, just talking to them each day. Again, same thing, asking how their classes are going. And I feel like they're starting to trust me more. They're calling my name when they see me in the hallway. They're coming by, fist bumping me, those types of things. So we're just starting to build those relationships at community at this time.
And I think that's so important. And we've talked about that on just about every episode. Is I think, and I have thought for a long time, that an athlete has to trust and the men that are coaching. And for them to trust them, they have to know that they have their back.
Right.
And if you care enough, like you're saying, to get to know them, let them, get in a conversation with them about their situation, what their life is like outside of school, what are their plans, what are their dreams, what are you planning to do with your life, and what do you want to get out of this? If they know that coach has their back, then they will perform at a level that maybe even they didn't know they could. And I think that's hugely important, and that's one of the biggest things. And I think we get back to the point of servant leadership with what Marty has done in his curriculum with a higher standard. And servant leadership, I think that's the epitome of servant leadership. When you take the time to get to know a person, whether it's an assistant coach, whether it is a player, whether it is somebody else on your staff, if you take the time to get to know them and build that trust relationship with them, you are serving that person by elevating them. You've elevated the importance of them in your life, in your eyes, and they see that, and therefore they are willing to then do whatever it takes to build the foundation or the program that we're part of. And I think that's hugely important. And going back to something I said a little bit earlier, that I was always told, you can't be their buddy. You can be their friend. You can be a friend to your athletes, but you have to walk that line, like you said. You can't get overly social with those guys so that they drop the parameters, start stepping over boundaries that have to be there. Those boundaries have to be in place. That respect level has to stay there, and they have to know that you're the coach, that you're not going to not quote rat them out.
Right.
In a situation, you're going to do the right thing, whatever the case may be. And so let's move on to some different things with coaches and with athletes, and let's talk about a big one as we're getting down here, later in our time. But let's talk about a big one that comes up, not just in coaching and athletics, but in life in general. It's something I've experienced plenty of times, and something you've experienced plenty of times, and that is that booger of a man called adversity. Every one of us are going to face it. There is no way you're going to go through this life. I'm not going to be a prosperity gospel preacher here and say that as long as you believe in God and you profess Jesus as your Savior, you're going to be rich and everything's going to be hunky-dory and you're not going to have to worry about bills and you're not going to have to worry about sickness. That's just, to me, that's almost blasphemy to spout that out there. We are all going to face adversity in our life. And I think it's so important as a coach, not only with yourself and with your staff, but also with those athletes, to talk about how to handle adversity and model how to handle adversity for those guys and girls.
Right, and I agree 100% with what you just said. I always try to tell teams, guys, coaches, and everything. Of course, adversity can happen every single year. It's the same thing with your relationship with Christ. Whenever you accept Christ, a lot of people think that all of a sudden, like you just said, everything's hunky dory. There's gonna be no more issues, there's gonna be no problems. But that's the complete opposite. Because as soon as you accept Christ as your Lord and Savior, you're no longer under Satan's control, and Satan wants you back. So Satan's going to do whatever he can to put obstacles in your way to make you trip and make you fall and to make you get away from God. So you try to creep back toward him. So I always tell people like when you accept Christ, that's great. That's fantastic. Let's praise the Lord on that. But now it's about to get tough because Satan's coming after you. And it's the same thing in a season. Like things are going to be going great. Something's going to happen just like that. That's going to come after you to attack your team. Whether it's infighting, whether it's major injuries, well, there's different things that could happen, but something's going to happen. And the question is, how do you respond? And for me, my focus, my go back to it always, Jesus Christ is my rock and savior. And that's where I'm going to go to help me get through this. And you try to get your teams to rally around that rock also, to know that when bad things are going, we can always rely on Jesus. He's always there for us. He's always given us everything he's pouring into us. He's wanting us to be successful. And as a team, we've got to do the exact same thing. We've got to be there for the guy next to us. I want to go to war with that guy next to me. And if something's going on with him, I've got to be there to pick him up and and to move on to the next thing. Or if somebody gets hurt, to build the next guy up, like, hey, you're just as good as the guy that was just here next to me. And I believe 100% in you. You got to have that mentality for the team to stay successful when something bad's going to happen. Because if you start having infighting and things like that, you're going to implode. And that's what Satan wants to happen. He wants to come from within, to divide and conquer, and to split your team up. So you've got to stay focused. You've got to stay what is our focal point, and just keep that reminded in front of the players all the time. This is what we're doing this for. This is why we're doing this. To keep their mindset of this is the why we're doing it. So when something bad happens, we always have that in our head, like this is why we're doing this, and we can get through this because of it.
Right, and that's I think that's hugely important to remember. And sometimes you and I have experienced this. Sometimes when you're coaching, everything seems to be going along well, and all of a sudden the rug gets jerked out from under your feet, and you are told that you no longer have a job as a coach, and you have no idea why. It's one of those situations where did I do something? Did something happen? What's going on here? And I had that happen to me after a long career at the college level. You had it happen to you just way more recently than me, and that's a feeling like what you've been there, I've been there. I know exactly what it feels like. I know exactly how you felt, and because I've been there and I felt it, and it is one of those deals where for a little while you're just a little bit numb. It's almost like getting hit hard in a football game. You get up for a few seconds and you're like, "Wow, what just happened?" And you have to kind of let yourself recover for a little bit before you get your wits back about you. And from coach to coach on this podcast, what have you found are the best ways to handle when something like that happens in your journey?
What I've learned is, like, early on, like at Calvary, I was there for 13 years. And my wife and I, we would go to coaches retreats every summer, just being around other coaches, getting to know them. Their spouses were there. It was just a weekend for just coaches and their spouses, just to kind of get away, but to get together also. And you start building relationships with the other coaches. And you hear stories about them. Same thing happened. Like they're getting unexpectedly getting fired from one place. They've been at several different schools over the last many years. And at Calvary, like I was very comfortable. Like I didn't really understand what they were going through, but I was hearing their stories. And then it was ones that I honestly thought I'd be at Calvary my entire career. This was what I thought. And so, but that happened. It was kind of an unexpected thing. The Calvary decided they wanted to make a change. And go back to thinking about those conversations I was having with the coaches and what they were going through and the spouses and all those. And I was really trying to second guess myself, like, am I really a good coach? Do I need to keep doing this? Should I start a different profession? I really was second guessing myself. And I was really just praying hard to God. I was like, is this what you really want me to do? Do I need to continue doing this? And it was absolutely, I'm coming from the Lord, like, Brian, you are a coach. This is what I want you to do. And he sent me out to West Alabama for 2 years, for 2 seasons. And it was one of those I didn't understand. I was like, I didn't know anybody out there. My family's all in the Columbus area. I'm 3 hours away now. Like, why are you sending me out here? And you don't know at the time why he's doing this, but you're just trying to trust God, like this is where he wants you to be at this time. Right. And we had success in winning football games and all, but we had a tragedy happen at the very beginning of this past football season. In our first game of the year, an opposing player he fell trying to make a cut, and we don't know what happened. We don't know if it hit his head or what, but he ultimately passed away that evening. And it was one of those that just tore apart. I mean, their school, our school, it was one of the most traumatic things you never ever want to witness or have to ever see. Like we're going through this, like, is this why God had me at Southern Academy to help through this time, through this tragedy, to help our team to be able to grow during this time? Again, I wasn't thinking that when I got let go at Calvary that something like this is going to be happening, but as it's going on, you're sitting there like, okay, this is why God had that happen to me at Calvary, to put me here in this situation so I can be here for this team, for these guys during this tragedy, and to be with Morgan's coaches also to try and help comfort them throughout this time. Because again, as a coach, I mean, that's the worst thing that you can possibly imagine happening is a tragedy like that happening on the field during a game. And I pray that I never have to witness that again, or any coach has to witness that. And but at the same time, you have to just have to trust God that he is doing certain things and you don't know why at the time, but you can look back and see, all right, this is what God was doing, and in trusting that.
Yeah, I think that's been my finding as well. Your first question is why? Why did this happen? And then, am I doing what I'm supposed to be doing? Mm-hmm. You talk to God and you say, Lord, am I still supposed to be on this path? What do you have different for me? I think the key in all of it, once that happens, is patience. Mm-hmm. Because if you try to force things to happen, you're going to trip and fall. Until you sit back and say, okay, God, I'm going to let you drive on this, and I'm just going to be watching for when the right exit comes up, and I'm going to step in there when that comes up. But, when I was in a sales career, just some different things started happening in that career, and I really felt uncomfortable, and I just started praying, God, I'm content where I am. I have a good job, but you see what's going on. I see what's going on. If you have something else for me, let me know what it is. Mm-hmm. I've been out of coaching, Brian, for 22 years. All of a sudden, I got a phone call from a friend of mine who was a teacher at St. Luke's School in Columbus, and she said, I don't know if you've ever thought about getting back into teaching and all of that. She said, but we got an opening at our school. And she said, every time it comes up, your picture just pops into my mind. And she said, I think you need to make a phone call. And I was like, you're crazy. I said, how long it's been since I've been in the classroom? I've done that. And so I just kind of started praying about it, and I was like, Lord, what do you think? So she called me again, and she said, I really think you need to make a phone call. And so I finally did. It was crazy because I got my resume together. I sent it in. I got I got an email that said basically, thank you for sending in your information, but it looks like we're going to be able to fill this from another direction and all that. And I was like, okay, well, Lord, you had me, you directed me to send this in, and I did, and so that means there's something else out there. I'm good where I am. A week later, I got another phone call, and it was like, well, that kind of fell through, and every time we have a meeting about this, your resume comes to the top, and you come in for an interview. And one thing led to another, and they asked me to come on board at St. Luke, um, and that led to 5 years of being back in, and I had the opportunity to come to Calvary after 3 years at St. Luke, and I had the opportunity to come to Calvary and to work. We had a great middle school team there. We all taught together. You and I taught together in the middle school, and we had such a great group of people. And then got to you gave me the opportunity to coach on the staff there, and I got to coach a little basketball as well in the middle school. And but just being in that environment and being a part of a staff where we were all pulling in the same direction and doing the same thing, that we experienced adversity. We went through some things. Our best player, or one of the best running backs around here, suffered a broken arm right at the wrong time of the season.
Right.
And in my second year there, I guess, and that was a big hole to fill, and it affected our team.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it really did. And we all did our best to carry that forward, and like you talked about, to make sure the next man up was ready to go. And we had some success after that, and it just sometimes that kind of event, and especially when you're in a small school situation and a small squad situation, it can be a big hole to try to fill. But I thought we got through it tremendously well, and then one thing led to another, and all of that kind of went away as you were kind of unceremoniously not renewed. But then that led to another event for you, which I think is a God wink, and we'll mention that here. You talked about going over to Southern Academy over in Greensboro, Alabama, and I happen to know the head of school over there. And I think that was a God thing the whole time, because I think God had a plan in the whole thing. And when you told me, and when I found out that Mark was the head of school over there, I made a phone call to him, and we had a really good talk. And then he had you in for an interview, and one thing led to another. And there you are at Southern Academy. And then, as you chronicled, you went through that situation, and I think that's a big part of the reason you were there with that tragedy happened, and how you were able to minister and help and serve those guys through that. Not only your kids and your school, but also the coaches at Morgan Academy and what they went through as well. And that may be the single sole reason you were in Greensboro, Alabama. And if that's the case, then God accomplished His plan. And I think there's probably more to it than that. I think there are some more reasons that you were there that you may not find out for years until a former player or somebody comes to you and tells you something. That's happened to me before. But I think as we kind of draw this into a closing here, I think it is so important. You've mentioned a lot of things, but I think the biggest thing that we can get out of this, and see if you agree with me here, is as a coach, as a leader, you have to be willing to serve the people that you're with. You have to be willing to not be that guy that wants to micromanage, that wants to lord over, that wants to be the domineering personality. You have to let your people on your staff do their job. You have to give them a little bit of autonomy, but you have to have relationships with those players where they know that you care about them, number one, that you have their back, number two, and that you want what's best for them.
Absolutely. Just a quick thing, a story that's popped in my head is early on, one of my first few years at Calvary, we had an upperclassman that had been at Calvary since he was 3 years old, and he walked out of practice. I could just tell his body language was not there, and so I just started talking to him and trying to figure out what's going on, and he just starts having tears in his eyes. And I was like, okay. I took him. I told the other coaches, like, y'all are running practice. I just took him up to my office, and we sat there and we talked like an hour and a half. Like I missed most of just about the entire practice, and so did he. But we're just talking through life, what was going on with him, and the struggles that he was having, and he ended up accepting Christ by the end of our conversation. He'd been at Calvary the entire time, but he didn't know who Jesus really was. He didn't have that personal relationship with him. But I was able to spend that entire time with him, and the Lord did the whole thing, and he accepted Christ. And we won the game that Friday night. I can't tell you who we played. I don't know what the score was. All I remember is when that game was over with, we were celebrating that kid in the relation in his decision that week of what he did. And just seeing the entire school we had 1,000 people there, whatever it was. Everybody was on the field, and everybody was sitting there congratulating that kid. Like I said, I don't remember the win. I know we won the game, but I don't remember other details in that. But that's what it is. And I think that's what brings me joy as a coach, is having those types of opportunities to witness players to be able to accept Christ and have that ultimate victory that they have, and to see an entire school be able to celebrate that. And that's what I feel like servant leadership is. I was put away what my job as head coach was on the football staff, and I became a mentor to this young man during that time. And that was much more important than running a offensive line drill that day or whatever I was supposed to be doing during that time. So I just want to make sure that as coaches, we have our priorities straight on what we're doing. Again, we want to win all the type of things, but you got to do it the right way. And I believe if you do it the right way, you will get a lot of victories.
Absolutely. Well, Brian, thank you so much for taking out time to be with me and with Marty, even though Marty's not with us physically today. I know he's thinking about us because he told me he would be, but really appreciate you joining us, and so happy for you in your new endeavor as an athletic director at Community. I'm looking forward to what you build up there, because I know it's going to be a building process for you, and I look forward to the successes you guys are going to have. And I know this is God's plan, because this is the door that God opened for you and the pathway that He gave you. And just want to congratulate you and your family. I love your family, your wife Rosie, Leanne, Ron, and Larry, number 44. That's what popped into my mind. Instead of Larry's name, his jersey number pops into my mind. But Larry, such great kids, and I was fortunate enough to get to know Leanne as a teacher, and watch her grow, and she seems to be doing really well. But just want to appreciate you for joining us, and I appreciate you for what you are and who you are as number one, a man of God, but number two, a coach with integrity who is a true servant leader, and just appreciate you taking the time out to be a part of our podcast. And down the line, we'll probably have you on here again, and Marty and I'll get to double team.
Absolutely. I'm very the friendship of you and Marty that I've had over the years. It's been a true blessing.
Well, okay, you can call on us anytime, man. But thanks, everybody, for joining us on this episode of the Step Up podcast. And as we always say, go out this week and step up and make a difference in somebody's life. And if you're a coach, hopefully you're gleaning some things that you can take with you from these podcasts, and continue to watch and join us every week as we go along. And hopefully we can help you along your journey and in becoming a better coach and a better husband, a better father, a better man overall. And most importantly, that you point everything and do everything for the glory of God, because that's what it's all about. Brian, again, thanks for joining us. Everybody have a great week. We'll see you next week on the Step Up Podcast.